My boss suspended me for his negligence, so I ruined his life. For a little context, I work at a vape shop which is already in a rough space due to regulations and laws the government is putting on us. Due to this, we were well aware that certain products we sold/made were highly illegal and enforceable at any time. I, 25 male, have been working at my job for a little over a year and a half. The owner of the company is the one who hired me, and she was the biggest sweetheart in the world. Unfortunately, she was forced out of her company by her son. He is the type of person who believes that he is always right, and if you don't agree with him, he will completely ignore you or fire you. He literally forced his mom into retirement by threatening to unalive himself, and continues to use that card every time she even says she wants to come visit. Last winter we had a massive snowstorm. Getting to work was rough, but we were told that we had to come anyway. We get there and the snow isn't plowed from the parking lot because he didn't want to pay the guy to do it, so we had to. Due to the lot being absolutely massive, we couldn't get it all done in time for us to help customers. As they came and went, we noticed the snow being patted down into the ground and essentially turning into a slip and slide. Of course he didn't do anything about it and asked me and another co-worker to clear all the garbage out of the other side of the building. When I did, I slipped and hurt myself. I didn't file for workers' comp, but told them I'd need to rest myself while at work. The next shift I sat almost the entire shift, and because I couldn't do anything I sat on my phone, only to get up to help customers. The next day my manager tells me he got out of a meeting with the owner's son and I was suspended for a week, 5 shifts. As I'm a college student and rent an apartment and have car payments, I couldn't afford to lose 5 days of pay. I marched into his office and laid it out that either he fires me so I can collect unemployment or unsuspend me. He told me neither was happening and that he was going to use me as an example to the rest of the employees. I was pissed and cursed him out. He doesn't like confrontation, so he shortened my suspension to get me out of the office. He then treated me poorly and singled me out for everything everyone else also does, but I was the only one being punished. Then comes the fact that he wanted to reconcile by forcing me to do handyman work around the place and didn't give me the tools, equipment, or training to do or use any of these objectives. This was the tipping point for me. The revenge. Due to being constantly singled out, I came to learn that everyone else was unhappy with this fact. I learned all the dirty little secrets about the company, including illegal products, labor violations, tax violations, etc. I used these secrets that I learned to call multiple government agencies: the Food and Drug Administration, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, Department of Labor, and report him by name. First, OSHA came and did an inspection on my day off. He told everyone they only cited him for a small violation and he was good other than that. I was obviously angry at that, but a few weeks later I got a packet in the mail telling me he got cited for everything and he was getting massive fines. I then get called into the office again with the manager, who told me I was suspended. He proceeded to tell my manager that he was getting demoted for not writing me up more and that I was no longer getting my raise until I fixed my attitude. This of course was right after he said, "I don't care that you called the OSHA." This little act is known as retaliation, which is illegal to do to people who called a protected agency like OSHA. He refused to even look at me at this point, because if he did anything that would imply he was punishing me for calling OSHA, I would have a lawsuit to destroy him. Now to today, another day off for me, and I get a text from a coworker at 11 a.m. That message was, "FDA is here." The manager quit and it's crazy. The FDA and IRS came rolling in full force in black trucks/SUVs. They came in and raided the place, seizing all illegal products and all the paperwork pertaining to the business. They're still there as I write this, so hopefully there will be more to come, but knowing how this works out, in most cases I won't have a job much longer and will be on unemployment. Update 1. The ATF also showed up. They confiscated all the house-made juices. We apparently don't have a manufacturing license. None of us knew this, and that means we may no longer be able to sell products. The IRS showed up because there's a possible cause for an investigation into tax evasion. As I learn more, I will continue to update. Update 2. It seems as though through talks with the lawyer, the son decided to actually take the heat for all of it and is going to have to pay massive fines and is possibly looking at jail time. He likely won't ever be able to get a manufacturing license for the rest of his life, and they said essentially that he won't be able to open any new businesses. I know he had 2 new locations rented out and in the process of opening, and those are never going to happen now. They're raiding his other business today, and that's going to be interesting, considering that if he doesn't have the paperwork for that business, it could lead to much more jail time. So as of right now, even though my job isn't shutting down yet, his other business is getting raided. He can't open the 2 locations that he's put a shit ton of money and time into, and he's going to be fined all he's worth and possibly go to jail. Tell others I hit my dog, see what's coming for you. Me and my husband, 28 female, 29 male, are in a chicken breeding club, which provides an allotment garden-like structure. We joined a year ago, and got to know Klaus, an old man who actually lives in one of those said gardens. At first, he was very kind, helped out 1 or 2 times. But after a while, he got very greedy, telling us to help him in his garden, selling stuff for him on eBay, or care for his chickens. Some people said we should keep our distance from him, but we didn't listen. He regularly invited us to drink a beer with him, acted like he knew all of town, is well known and has many connections. But the real thing was, yes, he was known, but for all the bad reasons. We talked to him a lot in the first few months, noticed he's highly addicted to alcohol, and tries to make a dime out of everyone and everything. You know the saying, blood is thicker than water? Not for him, lol. At first he helped us out, for example with giving us some tools for free or giving us money for working over at his place. Also, we kinda felt bad for him. Living your last days in a garden shed? But after a while, he gave us near to nothing for our work. No money, broken tools, so, garbage we had to dispose of, not even a thank you. He also started to talk to us in a very demanding tone. Old male Karen-like. Instead of messing with him, we started to simply distance us from him, not doing any more work. His last effort to win us back, was to buy 20 weed plants and putting them in his garden and showing us, he knew we smoked. But as soon as he demanded, we sell his future 5 kilos, we backed off again. As others noticed, we didn't hang out with him anymore, they started to tell us how Klaus truly is. He started to live there, as soon as another club member, since dead, lost his home and lived on his farm over there. As for the rules of the club, it's not allowed. If he is allowed to, Klaus had to be too. Klaus lived there for 14 years, not because he got homeless or another stroke of bad luck in life, because he wanted to live as inexpensive as possible. We learned, he had loads of debt. No wonder, considering how much he drank. We found out, this is the case since he was old enough to drink. He tried to rip everyone off their money, since ever. His brother, his best friend, even his wife. Some say if she was still alive, he would sell his own mother. As the weeks went by, we learned more and more about him, that he had done this with nearly everyone who joined the club, not only with us. We saw it too, as a new member, who's also mentally disabled, cut his hedge for him for 16 hours, and got $20. And no thank you. Klaus started to dislike the way we stayed out of his way. So his response to that was, to talk crap about us, even threatened us to tell others that we smoke, illegal over here. I mean real full-fledged lies. For example, we would owe him $200, we would do parties till late at night at the farm, we would hit our dogs. At that last point, we snapped. We bought a drone, made pictures of his weed plants and got police involved. Get them before they get you, lol. Klaus peacefully sat in the club's community house, drinking beer, 9 o'clock in the morning. As 10 police officers walked in, going directly into his garden. Little Klaus turned his head around like an owl and immediately stood up and walked outside. He asked one cop, "Hi, can I help you?" And they asked for his name. "Oh, Mr. Klaus, we were actually looking for you." Behind the officer talking to him, the other cops raided his farm, not only finding the plants, but discovered themselves he lives there, living room with obviously used bed, food leftovers, a TV. They asked him where he has his address. He told them the address of his long-deceased brother. They sent a car to this address, but found no clue he could be living there. BTW, he also got money from the state, social benefits, also meant to cover his rent. The rent on this farm is $30 per year. So huge no. Money fraud is one of the worst things you could do over here. The cops stayed at his farm for the next 4 hours, collecting evidence. The whole farm surroundings were patrolled by some cops, so, word spread like a wildfire. Every single farm owner got over there to see what was happening, cheering that this douche finally got what was coming for him, after ripping off so many people. It was amazing. This dude had 14 years to make this farm his little hidey hole, making money out of it. He had split the whole community, gave us a bad name overall and not even breeding chickens. He just had them to sell the eggs SMH. To his luck, he was clever enough to tell the cops it's only CBD, still illegal, but not as much, so they had to send it in to test it. Buying him some time. The club held a meeting. That was a shit show. As soon as this topic started, he said we planted them there, he only gave us the little plot. Most laughed, some said nothing. We voted for his eviction, had to, as of the rules, he got 15 against him, just 3 voted for him to stay. So, Our revenge is not over yet. Keep you updated. Your bully son messes with us and you kill our dog? Prepare for dad. This happened in 1995 on a small rural town in Chaco province, Argentina. Everyone knows each other here until this very day. My father was an electrician, the only one in town, so he was constantly meeting people, and as he was born and raised here, he was very well known by everyone. He grew up with many of the police officers from back then, and they even had asados together, Argentinian BBQ, at least 3 times a month for years. My father was not a violent man. That was the only time I saw him do something like that. The other man with his busy son, they were not from town. They had moved here a year or so prior. They were from Buenos Aires. I don't really knew the guy, only his kid, who was an absolute asshole to almost every kid in the block, and he constantly picked on me and my brother since we were the youngest of our neighborhood, therefore couldn't defend ourselves. Bucky wasn't trained since we knew nothing about training, but he was loyal and playful with every kid. One thing for sure, though, he was protective. One afternoon we were playing in the park and out came Bully Kid, who at first threw rocks at us, then got closer and started calling us names, and us being little got scared. He was bigger than us. We tried to leave but he blocked us and started hitting my brother. I tried to stop him but he did the same to me. Bucky heard us crying and came running, jumping and getting the bully's arm at once. He bit, shook and released, staying between us and the bully, barking like mad until the kid left running. We saw High get inside his house, and a few seconds later came father with the sledgehammer. Bucky stood in front of us, hairs raised and barking, but the man didn't stop. He got close, raised the sledgehammer and went straight down to Bucky's head. He did not him once, he hit him 5 times. The first blow I'll never forget. The sound of the steel connecting with the skull, the painful whimper of our dog. Bucky got knocked with the first blow. By the 5th and final his head was caved in. My brother and I were frozen in place, scared to death, crying a lot. The asshole dad say something which I don't remember now, and left. We were unable to move for a moment, such was our fear. Finally I grabbed my brother and went home. Dad was fixing a fan, and when he saw us asked us what happened. We told him and just said, right. Okay, let's wash your faces and grab some ice cream. Yes. That's what our dad did. Took us for ice cream. He did a pretty well job to mask his emotions and showed himself cheerful to us. That night, when brother was asleep and I was playing in the kitchen, he grabbed the wrench, told mom and I he had to fix something in the neighbor. I assumed it was another neighbor since it was a common thing for my dad to get asked by neighbors to fix things. Nodded to mom nodded back, yes, she knew, and left. He came back some minutes later, told me to go to bed, and that was it. A decade later we came to know what happened. He went to the guy's house, knocked on the door and punched the dude so hard it rocked his head back. Told him he would break one limb for each of his children whom he made cry. I can only imagine what he would have done if we were more than 2 kids. Proceeded to beat the guy some more in front of his family and then took the wrench and broke his legs. He then left the house, went home, asked me to go to bed, talked to mom and went straight to the police, turned himself in and was actually delayed until the police went and checked with the other guy. My dad also showed our dead dog to them, and the police found the sledgehammer on the bully's house still with blood on it, and they let my father go. They also spoke with the dude when he got better and suggested him to leave the town, since if they weren't liked before, they would never be now. To this, you gotta understand the mindset from some small rural towns. We looked at outsiders with mistrust back then, and it took a while for people to get used to you if you were new in town. However, these people came and weren't very much liked. Apparently because of the kid, and the father was also an asshole. I do not condone the actions of my father, nor am I justifying in any way the events that transpired then, but as a father myself I can totally understand to what extent a man can react when their kids are at play. I love my dad and I have mad respect for him. R.I.P. Dad, we miss you greatly.